Hello, and welcome back. I'm Shakia, and in this episode, we're going to continue our Meet the Cast series, and we're going to talk about Naeem and Shandra from the show Love Without Borders. All right, let's jump into it. Naeem, he is 39, he's from Texas, he's a social worker, a licensed master's level social worker, and he works at a middle school, and he says he's a big kid himself. He is very playful, very silly. He talks to his friend, one of his colleagues at work, about this experiment and that he's going to be leaving. And she's like, well, what about your students? What about your job? And he's like, I'm going to have to leave my job. And she's like, wow, this is a lot to process in the few seconds you just told me. Then we see Naeem tell his mom. And his mom says the same thing. His mom is like, this is a lot to unpack. We have to unpack this. Okay, let's back up for a second. When we see Naeem and his mother, they're in the kitchen and they're cooking. And he's talking about, he helps his mom cook. And he goes over there to go on her pots. And his mom said, did you wash your hands? And he said, no. She said, you better go over there and wash your hands. Let me tell you something. That was a real moment. Was that not a real moment? Well, remember when you were younger and you were about to go in your mother's or whoever, you're about to go in those pots that were on the stove or in the refrigerator, and you heard, hold on, wait a minute, you better go wash them hands. Listen, I felt that. I felt that. So Naeem tells his mother about this experiment, this social experiment. And he's talking about it, and he's like, this is going to help me, or no, he says something to the effect of he's on this spiritual journey, and he feels like this is where he's led to go, and this is what he's led to do. And his mom says, that's disappointing. And he asked his mom, can I have your support? She goes, no. And he's like, wow. And so you can tell he really does want his mom's support. They have a close relationship. And so he's hoping that she will come around and understand his decision to participate in this experience/experiment. Prior to Naeem having this conversation with his mother, he tells us a little bit about his background. He said his father had passed away, I think in 2017. And Naeem says that his father revealed on his deathbed that he had been unfaithful to his mother, and I believe fathered children outside of their marriage. And so it's a serious moment, right? We think as the viewer this is going to be a serious moment. The way the music is playing, they have that serious dramatic music, and it's a sad tone because of what he's talking about, because of what Naeem is talking about. He says, my brother and I, and he says in our Muslim faith, we have to wash the body of, I think, like of their deceased parent. And he says, my brother and I had to wash our father. And as we are washing our father, we see his junk. And we're like, well, now things make sense. And it turns into this joke. And I'm like, okay, sir. So for me, I'm already cautious about Mr. Naeem because I'm like, is he going to be too playful? I love a good sense of humor. Let's be silly. Let's laugh and joke. But there needs to be some limits, and yet I want there to be a cutoff. We can't laugh and joke and be silly all of the time. Not all of the time. Let me know what you think. So, I did think that it was funny the way it turned around. I did. I'm not going to lie. I chuckled. But I did say, oh, he's going to be a character. He's going to be a character. Now, listen, Naeem also shared his come to God moment, okay? Naeem says he realized he needed to settle down and he wanted to have something more serious after he done had the 19. He says, but before then, I was a dog. He was out there up in them streets just doing some things with some folk. He says he was a dog, okay? He didn't treat women very well. But then he got really, really sick. And he said he had a conversation with God and he said, look, if I pull through this, I'm gonna act right. I'm gonna get it together. Now I'm watching this and I'm saying, okay, that's great. And yet, this is so recent. This is recent. So did you really change? Are you sure you're not going to go out and do the same thing that you were doing before in past relationships or situationships? Sir, are you sure you changed? So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Okay. Now we fast forward. Naeem is introduced to us in episode 3. We're going to fast forward to episode 4. He already learned he's going to Panama. Erica pulled up on him when he was doing his run. He was running in the park and she pulled up on him. I'm like, Erica, how you know he was there? How'd you know? Oh, TV. But she pulls up and she says, I found you a match. Let's go. He goes home. Erica and Naeem both talk to his mom. The mom is still not here for it.
Wow.
Mrs. Thompson, I'm Erica Angelo. So, we are here to get your son. It is time for this gentleman to hopefully meet the love of his life.
I didn't know it was going to be this soon. Like, this is very, very surreal at this moment. But I still welcome the opportunity.
She's here. There is that sense of urgency. So, hey.
She's like, Naeem says, well, wherever I go, are you still going to come and visit me? And the mom said, why? This is your experience, not mine.
Wherever I do land, you're still coming?
I don't know.
Mom, what do you mean?
This is your experience.
Dang, mama is just really not here for it. She said, this your business. Leave me out of it. I think you shouldn't even go. She didn't say all that, but her demeanor was, that's your business. Leave me out of your business. If you want to go, you go, but that doesn't mean I'm going with you. And so Naeem, again, he's a little frustrated by that. He wants his mother's support. He really does, and you can tell.
A bit of me is hurt. A bit of me is trying to understand her perspective on things. You're surprised I am?
That's what it is.
And am I being selfish? Am I doing something right now that can't be undone in terms of the trust and bonds that I have with my family? I'm gonna get everything packed. Okay.
Nonetheless, he goes. He and Erica get in the car. They get to the airport. He learns he's gonna go to Panama. Cut to episode 4. He's in Panama. He has landed. And now he is looking for roses. He's trying to find roses because he said, growing up, how I grew up, the culture I come from, you don't show up empty-handed. And I want to bring her some roses. So he's looking for roses. Finally, his driver takes him to where he could go get some roses. He grabs them, and in the car ride on the way over to his match's house, he says, "Ooh, I'm just praying to God that she's attractive."
Here it is, the moment of I've been waiting for. I'm right outside the house. I pray to God she is cute. I came a long way, man. I'm praying she's cute.
I'm praying to God. I'm really hoping that she's cute. So he pulls up to her house. She comes out. And he's like, oh, thank God she's cute. And he's like, that part, that worry is over. The worry for that is over. And we are introduced to his match. And in her confessional, they must have asked, like, is there an attraction? And she says, well, yes, I think he is attractive. And I know on his part, he thinks I'm attractive because all he kept saying is, you're so beautiful. You're so beautiful. Oh, my goodness. A weight is lifted off my shoulders. You're so beautiful. And they're talking and they're getting to know each other. And you can tell Carmen definitely seems way more serious than Naeem. And he lets her know, look, I'm very playful. I'm silly. And she goes, oh, okay. And she's like, you can be silly, but there needs to be a balance. And I agree. Whew. And it just seems like Shandra is going to need some patience with Naeem, because he really does seem like a big kid. And again, I'm all for being playful and silly and joking around, but I agree with Chandra. There needs to be a balance. So they keep talking, then she cooks, they have dinner, and they're on the balcony. She's laughing because he's like so tall that he can barely fit. And so the balcony isn't very it's not big. And so they're in this small space and he has his legs hanging over and they're just like dangling. And so she's laughing and they share this moment, this playful moment. And then he goes to eat the food and she goes, "Oh, I hope my food doesn't give you diarrhea." And he's like, "Why would you say that while I'm eating, when I'm about to eat your food? Why would you say that?" She's like, "Look, I'm being honest. I hope it doesn't. It should be fine, but I'm hoping." And he's like, "Dude, that is weird." So they start to, connect. They're engaged in conversation and things are okay. Things seem fine. We fast forward now to episode 5. And this is when I think Shandra, at this point, she's had enough of his playfulness. She's saying, okay, this is too much. And he's making jokes about everything. He's doing the joke, "That's what she said," or "I've had that problem." And, he's doing those kind of jokes. And Chandra, she is not amused by any of it. At this point, she is over it. But let me back up. So at the start of episode 5, she invites him to Thanksgiving dinner, which, pardon my ignorance, I didn't know that they celebrate Thanksgiving in Panama, but she and her family do celebrate. This isn't the first time they're having Thanksgiving, and so I was like, oh, wow. Now I have to look up why. I didn't know that. Let me know if you knew that, but I didn't know that. So Chandra invites Naim to Thanksgiving dinner with her family, and she says that's when you'll meet everybody, and we'll take it from there. Well, the invite did not last for very long because later in the episode, she says actually, so they go on this like bike ride, and she says, "Well, you're not pedaling." So he stops pedaling and she's like, "What are you doing, pedal?" And he's like, "You told me I'm not pedaling, so I'm not gonna pedal." And he's trying to be like goofy and stuff, but it's annoying. And she's like, "Dude, pedal, like what are you doing?" So they find a bench to sit at and she says,
Sometimes I feel like you make jokes about everything and you cannot be fooling around with everything.
Oh, playfulness is part of my personality. That's part of my package.
he asked, I think he asked her something about Thanksgiving, and she says, "Actually, I think it's better if you don't go."
So by tomorrow, for the Thanksgiving dinner, do you mind if I go by myself to my mom's house? Because I don't feel like ready to, introduce you.
Yeah.
And he was upset. You could tell from his facial expression, his reaction, his body language. He was upset, and he was disappointed that she didn't want to invite him anymore, that she didn't want to bring him along.
I'm kind of in disbelief. I left my job, my home, my family, and then she hits me with "By the way, you're not invited to Thanksgiving dinner."
And she said, "This isn't the right time for you to meet them."
Play jokes around about everything. It's something that it's really bothering me a lot.
And in the confessionals, Chandra does say that she is getting fed up with him being so goofy. And she's like, "You're a 39-year-old man. I need you to act like it." And she kind of says something to that effect to him directly. And Naim says, "Well, playfulness is a part of my personality." And I thought, okay, I get that. Because that's who you are. That's a part of your personality. And yet I'm wondering if this personality trait has gotten in the way of some serious stuff for you, right? Of certain relationships or opportunities. Because again, it's okay to be playful, but there's a time and a place for that. And at some point, we got to dial it back just a little. Because if we're always playful, how do we get things done? The stuff that has to be done, how do we get them done? So it's like, dial it back just a little. But also, Shandra maybe she could be a little bit more playful, because there were moments where she did seem very serious and, maybe too in her head too much at times. They were eating at a restaurant, enjoying the beautiful view, and he says, I could really see myself here, and I'm hoping it's a win-win, that I can fall in love with this person and this new country. Like, I could see myself here. And he says, oh, what would you do if I start dancing? And so he's, he got up and he's dancing a little, and she's like, stop that, sit down, stop that. And she says, if we were somewhere where other people were dancing, it would be fine, but right now, if you're the only one dancing, I'm embarrassed. And I thought, okay, well, that's on you. Right? This isn't Naeem, because he wasn't even being too like flamboyant. He wasn't being too out there. He just got up and he just was moving a little bit, he wasn't being loud, any of that. And I thought that could have been a cute moment. And so perhaps instead of being so concerned with other people, like what they would be thinking and being embarrassed by it, we could practice being in the present moment and enjoy it. And y'all don't have to be like all out there in the middle of the floor, but she could sit in her seat a little, right? I mean, I'm not going to get up and start dancing regardless of where I am, because I don't have rhythm. So I'm probably just going to stay in my seat and move a little bit. So I'm not going to, I get what Shandra is saying. I'm not going to get up and do all of that. But it's also okay to have a little fun. You might move just a little bit. And she says, don't get me wrong, I love dancing, but I want to dance in a place where it's appropriate to be dancing. I mean, they were playing music. I thought it was fine. I thought where they were and what he was doing was okay. I didn't think it was too extra. But she like shut that down quick, fast, and in a hurry. She shut it down and she was like, not here for it. Step back. And I was like, dang. And he was just looking like, oh, dang. So fast forward, he does not go to Thanksgiving dinner with her. Her family, they're like, where is he? Her sister says, I took off of work. Let him know I took off of work. And it's hard to get off on Thursdays. Why didn't he come? And the grandmother, the mom, everybody's like, where is he? And she says, well, actually, I didn't. I invited him and then I uninvited him. And then when I went to invite him again, he said, you know what? I don't feel comfortable. You go. So her grandmother said, oh, that's not his fault. It's on you. You moved too fast. Also, if you watch this episode, did you peep how her sister said, hey, my big nose sister? I didn't like that. And if this were a different video, we talk about that and the context behind that. But we're not even going to get into that right now. We'll save it for another time. But I didn't like that. But anyway, her family, once Shandra told the whole story, they were like, oh, so it's not his fault. Oh, man. And then we see Naim. Naim is out. He's hanging out. He found somewhere to go with some music. I think he has a drink in his hand. And he's talking to somebody, to some older guy. And he's enjoying his view. And he's like, y'all have some beautiful women here. But before this, really quickly, when they first started talking about Thanksgiving dinner, and she's like, I know y'all eat turkey, but we eat ham. And he's like, oh, y'all eat ham? Why? And she's like, because it's better than turkey. And so he says, okay, well, I mean, I'm open to giving it a try. And she says, well, yeah, you have to, because if not, my mom will be offended by it. And I thought that was interesting because, okay, hear me out. Don't come for me. But I thought he said he was Muslim. And most Muslims, don't eat pork. And so I was like, oh, you're going to eat ham? What? So maybe he's not a practicing Muslim. I don't know. But I thought that was an interesting moment. I'm like, oh, you're going to eat pork for Shandra. You're going to go there. You're going there, Naim, huh? But he didn't even have to worry about it because he didn't even go. He didn't go. Oh, man. We see a teaser for episode 6. And I don't know. I don't know about these two. I don't know if this is a good match. I think one is too playful and the other is too serious. And in the teaser, Miss Shandra is dancing with her ex all up on him, honey. I'm like, oh, you weren't afraid to dance then, huh? And Naim is like, I did not come here for this. So let me know what you think about Naim and Shandra. Do you think they're gonna last? I don't really see that. I don't know. And it wouldn't be interesting if they are the couple that does last. But he just seems so goofy. He seems so goofy. I can't take it as a viewer. So poor Shandra, but maybe she'll come around and he'll come around and they'll meet in the middle, and maybe it will work. Let me know, what do you think about Shandra and Naim? And what do you think about Chandra taking back that invitation to Thanksgiving dinner? I would love to hear from you. Let me know in the comments. Listen, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you. I want you to go out and have a courageous day. And when you get a chance, come on back for the next one. But until then, bye for now.